Hi everybody, this is Prasant Naidu here, and today we have Mahendra Palsule. Hi Mahendra.
Hi Prasant. Hi everybody.
Mahendra, before we get into the detailed and bigger questions, let's take you to your childhood days. Mind sharing some of your childhood days where you grew up and how was it like that?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Pantnagar, Ghatkopar in Mumbai, and a very typical ordinary childhood, nothing exceptional or notable about it. I was a stickler for details even in my when I was a baby. So when they used to put a mattress on the floor, if it was folded at the corner, I wouldn't sleep on it. It had to be straightened out completely, and then only I will get on it. So that was my passion for details and neatness has come since my childhood. That's the one thing I can say that has stayed with me to this day. Otherwise, nothing notable, very obedient and kind of a late, meaning extremely curious. My questions used to be extremely irritating for my parents and my grandparents and my elder brother and sister. Extremely curious child, extremely questioning child, but a very obedient and disciplined child. That was the childhood.
I have seen that you've been a topper throughout your school life. Is that true?
Not really, not a topper. At the end of my school days, I was adjudicated the most outstanding student, meaning I was not an academic scholar, but I was good in studies, I was good in painting, I was good in drawing, I used to play the tabla, I used to sing. So it was a kind of an all-round personality with a lot of talents. So everything mixed together, master of none but jack of all trades kind of a thing. So no, I was never a topper, but I used to be among the top five, I would say.
Great, no worries on that. You went ahead and did a diploma in computers. Before we go there, is there a love for your computers grew from your childhood days, or how is this love for computers started? What's back then?
My love for computers started because of my elder brother who got interested into new technology and the computers that were coming on in those days. So this was around the mid 80s where it was 84 or 85, and my brother started telling me that he is working with a friend of his who has this new digital computer on which they are going to program something. So from that point onwards I got very interested into it, and it was actually, I do remember that it was my 10th standard in which I really decided that computers is where my profession and my career is going to be. It was my 10th standard. I definitely remember that because in those days it was like science, commerce, arts were the three main things that used to be the choices. And my problem, which I was going through since 8th standard, was that I wanted to be a philosopher, I wanted to be an astronomer, I wanted to be a scientist and so many different things. So I started struggling with the choices right since my 8th standard. So ultimately I had to come to a decision because I knew that by the time I reached 10th, I should have made a decision. So it was kind of learning to balance between dreams and what I really would like to be in an ideal world versus my background, my family's capabilities and the realities of the current world. So being pragmatic and being idealistic and choosing from a balanced point of view, I decided that yes, somewhere computers would be the best thing for me. So this is the final choice I made when I was in my 10th. That was in 86.
When did you go for the diploma for computers, and how was computers back then? Can you share some story there?
Yeah, we had a PC at home. So there was this hardware guy of ours, and I started working on computers immediately after my 10th. So after my 10th, during my vacations, I used to go to meaning I wanted to work on computers, but where could I work on computers and do something useful? So my dad was a banker, and he had a few business colleagues of his who had PCs in their offices. So I used to travel and work in their offices and work on their PCs just so that I could get some hands-on time. So at that time there was Lotus 123 and these 5.5 inch, 5.25 inch floppy drives. Some of the PCs were XT, some of the PCs weren't even XT. Some of them were 80s. And I did my normal 11th and 12th. But in my 12th standard, the balance that I talked about previously between pragmatism and idealism all broke down, because I wanted to go into IIT JEE also, meaning I was trying to go into IIT. I had by that time realized that the kind of education I really wanted was not possible in India. So I wanted to go and study in the US. So I was trying for undergraduate admissions abroad, for which I was going through the SAT and the TOEFL and everything, while I was also going through this IIT JEE thing, and while I was also going through the 12th standard board examination. And in trying to attempt all of these, I miserably failed in all of them. So I was able to score some rudiment, meaning some basic minimal marks which would have got me into some industrial engineering or chemical engineering. So it was a difficult choice. I could have continued as a chemical engineer or a mechanical engineer. At that point in time there weren't so many specializations. There was only electronics, mechanical, chemical, and I didn't definitely want to go into mechanical or chemical. So I wanted to stick to computers, but it was out of the question because I didn't just have sufficient marks enough. I did get admissions into US universities. I remember I had applied to MIT, I had applied to Cornell, all the Ivy League schools and everything. I got admissions, but I didn't get scholarships. So I couldn't pursue those admissions either. So I was faced with a difficult choice. I wanted to stick to computers. I did not want to sacrifice my chosen line. So the only option was to go back and forget my 11th and 12th and sacrifice my 2 years of education just to stick with my computer line. And that's what I did. So I went in for a diploma, which was a 10 plus, meaning a diploma which you do after you pass 10th. So I wasted 2 years of my education. I kept them aside and I went in for a computer diploma. So that's how it happened, and it was a decision which was criticized by all of my friends and family, because I am wasting 2 years of my education and everybody would have expected that after 12th you do your engineering. But I stuck to it. I said no, I don't want to leave computers, and that's one of the brave decisions I took, about which till today I am still proud. That yes, I did not go into chemical or industrial, and I did not sacrifice my passion for computers. I was ready to sacrifice 2 years of education, but I stuck with computers. That's how I landed up in my diploma.
That's interesting. How was life at doing diploma? How long was it, and any interesting stories that you can share with that?
Life at diploma was extremely exciting. Meaning, by that time I was like a master of my domain kind of a word. So I was teaching the teachers. I was standing first in everything all throughout my diploma. Teachers were not able to solve problems which I was solving. Teachers asked me to teach instead of them, and students told me that I am a better teacher than our teachers. So they asked me to teach instead of them, and so on. So it was a very exciting period, and those were some of the best days of my life, because I was kind of able to change the typical model of education in India, where there's a student and there are students who are not interested in teaching, and there's a teacher who walks into a classroom and blah 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 something without any actual passion for the topic, without actually bothering whether the students are understanding. And this was my problem with education. I didn't like the mundane routine nature of education, and that was what I was able to some extent overcome, because my presence in the classroom brought about a change both in the teachers as well as in the students. And I remember in electronics, for example, the teacher was teaching multivibrators on the whiteboard, and nobody of the entire class was understanding any damn thing, because they had forget multivibrators. They had not even understood how a transistor works. They had not even understood how a PN junction works. So the next lecture, the teacher asked me to teach, and then when I started teaching multivibrators, and then when I asked, I realized people are not understanding. Why are you not understanding? Because they did not know how transistors work. And then, okay, if you don't understand how transistors work, do you understand how PN junction works? Class said no. So what had happened 8 months back at the start of the year, nobody had understood. So I started with the basics again. I started with PN junction, explained them transistors, and then went on to multivibrators, and then everybody started understanding what the magic of electronics is all about. So those were exciting years. I was able to change that atmosphere, and I made some good friends. One of my good friends is still my good friend, my professor from my college days, who I deeply respect a lot, and who is generous enough to respect me a lot too. Meaning he is such a good professor that he says that you have been my professor. So wonderful years, a lot of good memories and a lot of good stories to tell.
Interesting. I can connect it with what you're trying to say about the education system, because I remember I was a commerce graduate and I started MCA because MCA was open for everybody, right? And the first lecture we get in computer engineering is 8088, the architecture,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I have no clue what is it, because I come from a commerce background, right? And the next subject is on data structures in C. I don't know how to program on C, and you're teaching me data structures, right? How am I supposed to pass that subject? No clue. I understand that. So, okay, moving to your next point, right? You completed your diploma. You spent a lot of time working into a couple of firms. You spent a considerable amount of time at Cognizant. How was your work experience before Cognizant? If you can just share something there, talk about that.
Yeah, my work started during my diploma years actually.
Mhm.
Because I was so impatient and so sick of the studying in an academic institution kind of thing. So I lived at Ghatkopar. I used to attend college in Chembur. But my friend was doing a software business, which is at his home in Malad, and from which he was working on his PC and coding and selling software. And I was so interested in learning and doing some actual real work that I couldn't just wait for my formal education to get complete and then go out and hunt for a job. So I actually started working with my friend during my diploma years. So it was like full day college, and then after college in the evening catch a bus from Ghatkopar to Malad, reach there at about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening, and then from 8 o'clock in the evening start coding and start working till about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the night, or sometimes the full night. And then at 7 o'clock in the morning catch the return bus back to Ghatkopar and then attend college the next day immediately and then continue. So I used to sleep about 3 hours on an average. But while I was doing that, in college I was learning Fortran and Pascal. And on my real job, I was learning Borland C++, which was the hottest thing that had arrived then.
Mm.
So these 5 Borland C++ manuals used to be what I used to read for the long bus ride between Ghatkopar and Malad to Ghatkopar. So these C++ manuals and object-oriented programming and everything was the hottest thing, because we had moved past Visual Basic and C also by then. What was the hottest thing at that time was object-oriented programming, which was new. It was 1990. So that was the new thing. I was learning C++, I was coding in C++, and we were shipping code in C++ while I was learning Fortran and Pascal in college. And I couldn't even talk to my professors about what is object-oriented programming because even they didn't know. They had not heard of it. Now the thing is, interesting aspect about it is this was, meaning we were I think one of the first people to send email from India in those times. It was in 1990 or so. You needed to get a special VSNL connection which was not available to all subscribers, and it was a very special thing. I don't remember the details now, but it was just such a thrill to send an email attached with our code and email it to the US. I remember, I'll never forget that, because email was something that was so new and so brand new at that point in time. Nobody had internet access in India. It was unheard of. Even we couldn't even explain it to somebody what we were doing, and we sent our code to the US by email in 1990. So after that, yeah, I had a lot of struggle. Coming to your question, so I had a lot of struggle getting a job because they only hired people with engineering backgrounds. You needed at least a BE to get a job. So I had to scout around quite a bit, quite a lot actually. My college professors were so impressed with my academic ability that they were aghast when I told them that I want to start work and I want to look out for a job, because they said ki, brilliant student like you should be doing his PhD. Why are you thinking of job? You should continue studying. You should continue studying. You should continue studying. I said, no, sorry. I have enough of studying. I want to work and I want to apply. I want to work. And I come from a generation where I was inspired by school dropouts like Bill Gates. So that was a role model during our generation, where education is okay. What to do in the real world is what is more important. So I kind of wanted to work. So yeah, finally I got into a small company in Mumbai, and then went to Germany where I used the internet for the first time in 95, and it opened up doors for me. So my career started from there, and we were into multimedia in 1995. By 1996 we were developing websites, animation, shockwave, everything. So I remember going to Rediff and showing them an animated shockwave flash based website, and they were like, wow, how is this possible? We didn't even know that you can do such kind of things. So we had one of the first animated flash based animations in an Indian website in 96. And after that, yeah, I got to Pune, and that's where my love for products started. So I got into a small company founded by a couple of ex-Microsoftians, and we were tightly knit with Microsoft, developing products based on the Windows platform. One was a secure file. So right click in Explorer on any file, and in your context menu our encrypt option comes up. So you can encrypt your file, encrypt and send and decrypt and so on. So it was a cryptography based application. So I was a program manager for that product, and then it was during that phase of my life that I learned a lot from the concept of program management as it works at Microsoft. Because we were ex-Microsoft kind of a company, we used to get a lot of so-called confidential internal documentation at Microsoft. So including the training stuff that they have internally and they use internally for program managers. So that's what I got trained in. I informally got formally trained on program management, Microsoft style, in that job, and which served me well for the rest of my career. And yeah, I loved I loved the part of product management, meaning it was program management, but the way program management works in Microsoft is you have to deliver a product and ship it on time. That's the job of the program manager. So it was a product management was part of the function. And balancing engineering, balancing sales, balancing market expectations and determining product features based on the competition and the expected or realistic marketability of your product. Balancing all of these was a challenge that I started enjoying. Unfortunately, 97 was a time when all of Indian software industry was moving into services. At that time it was Y2K, 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 and after Y2K it was all developed into other areas. So Indian product development was never really a core area of interest for any of the big guys, and all of the companies who were trying to build products were too early for that time. So I was part of a company, for example, called Cognizant. It is still remembered by quite a few people in Pune because it was ahead of its time, because it was developing products and it was developing mind-blowingly new innovative products at a time when the market wasn't ready for it. So I worked in Cognizant for a while and then I moved to Cognizant. And then into Cognizant I decided, meaning I was swept by the tide, by the great Indian software industry tide, where I got into this routine job of 50 plus teams, project managers, assistant project managers, sales managers,
The entire red carpet.
offshores, red carpets, offshore meetings, proposals, this, that. So I got sucked in by this tide and I swam along with it. So on-site offshore model, working at offshore, managing the projects, delivering projects on time, working in the BFS sector, working in the verticals, and then I moved to on-site. I worked at on-site for a couple of years. It was extremely hectic. Work throughout the day with the client and then manage your offshore train throughout the night. It was a complete 24/7 working cycle, delivering extremely challenging projects in very limited budgets, in a very short time, and all of that. Meaning I know that this is usual and routine for all projects in Indian IT, so I was part of that.
You had an interesting story with the certification that you were talking about. So
Yes, it was during my first job years that because I had just a diploma and not an engineering degree, there was this new thing called Microsoft certification that had been just introduced by NIT in India. And I said, okay, if I don't have an engineering degree, at least I can add some certification credentials to my professional resume. So I decided to go for it. And then the NIT folks said, oh, this is just arrived and this is extremely difficult and nobody has done it before. I said, okay, let me try. And so I went in for the exam, and those were the Windows core services and Windows architecture exams. So I passed 2 exams in my straight first shot. And the NIT guys were like completely wowed and blown away. They said nobody has done this before unless they have tried 5-6 times, and nobody from our teaching staff has either done this successfully, and you have passed in your first shot. Would you like to join NIT and teach us? I said, no, I don't want to join NIT and teach you. I am happy with my certification. So I was one of the first, meaning it was 95, and I was one of the first Microsoft certified professionals in India. At that point in time, it used to be like, oh, such and such it used to be a newspaper news printed in the newspapers that, oh, there was such and such a person who has got Microsoft certified from India, was a headline or was a news item to be covered in the press. So I was one of the first ones, and even the NIT folks were absolutely blown away. That was one thing. And the other interesting part of those days was the writing part. uh, I was using the internet with a 14.4 kbps dial-up modem connection from my home, and I discovered that Macmillan was wanting and looking for authors for contributing to its famous Unleashed series of books. Those books were like the Gita and the Bible for us nerds back then. Unleashed was like the series of books to go to, whether you wanted to learn C++ or Visual Basic or whatever. It was like the thing. And Macmillan was looking for authors. So after I got Microsoft certified, I said, okay, I'm doing a job, but it's not so good enough, well paying enough. What else can I do? So I decided, okay, let me try. Now at least I have got some credentials to show. So I wrote an email to Macmillan saying, okay, I would like to try to contribute to this. I said, fine, try, go ahead. And then they sent me a dozen of extremely complicated Word documents which are templates with so many different kinds of guidelines about formatting guidelines and this and that and that and that guidelines and this guideline and that guideline. And I said, okay, it was like I was appearing for an exam. And then I was talking to the acquisitions editor, and they had like a series of about 7 or 8 editors. So I prepared my first draft according to those guidelines after studying them for a few days. I prepared my first draft, I send it to them, and then their first editor comes back saying this. And then I make revisions based on that, and then I send them again. And so technical editor, this editor, that editor, and it was a whole long drawn process. But yeah, at the end of which,
Okay, that's an interesting book.
so I have been a contributor to ActiveX Unleashed and Visual J++ Unleashed, contributing chapters and appendices to them with new stuff that was just arrived, and meaning coders all around the world wanted to know how to learn ActiveX, so this was the book for you in those days. So it was a great source of pride. They told me that you will get some $25 per printed page or something like that. I said, okay, that's fine. And after I did a couple of chapters for a couple of books, they were so impressed with my writing that they started telling me that now it's the time for you to write your own book. Because then you will not be paid on a per page royalty basis. You will actually get royalties from the sales of your book. So why don't you write a book yourself? But I was too busy with my job and my other passions to really devote myself to something like that. So it never happened.